Attorneys for Karen Reed are now asking for some charges against her to be dismissed. The judge declared a mistrial last week after the jury could not reach a verdict on whether Reed rammed her police officer boyfriend with her SUV and left him to die. Now her defense team says trying Reed again on 2 of the charges could constitute double jeopardy. ABC's Ariel Reshef has the latest on that story.
Another twist in the closely watched murder case of Karen Reed, days after a deadlocked Boston area jury prompted the judge to declare a mistrial.
Folks, your service is complete. I'm declaring a mistrial.
Now, Reed's defense attorneys filing a motion to dismiss 2 of the 3 charges against her, claiming they were contacted by one of those jurors and sources familiar with the jury who said all 12 jurors had agreed unanimously that Reed was not guilty of second-degree murder and leaving the scene of an accident with injury or death. But those verdicts were never read in court. Reed's legal team writing, Juror A was emphatic that count 1, second-degree murder, was off the table. Adding, had the court so inquired, it appears clear that not guilty verdicts would have been recorded for count 1 and count 3. Miss Reed was denied her right to receive those verdicts in her favor, arguing trying her again on those same counts would constitute double jeopardy. Her team saying anything less than the dismissal of those 2 charges would be a travesty of justice. The Norfolk District Attorney's Office saying it is examining the motion in anticipation of filing a response, indicating it will press on with a new trial. In the explosive months-long case, prosecutors alleged Reed intentionally backed her Lexus SUV into her police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, in January of 2022 outside a party and left him for dead in the snow.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Those are the words of the defendant.
But Reed has denied any wrongdoing, claiming she's the victim of corrupt police trying to cover up that O'Keefe died at that party with his fellow officers. The trial filled with testy exchanges, the judge at one point admonishing Reed.
Excuse me? This is funny, Ms. Reed? All right, we're done.
Now, during the trial, Reed's defense team honed in on unprofessional text messages that the lead investigator, State Trooper Michael Proctor, admitted to sending about Reed and about the case. Yesterday, Proctor was officially suspended without pay. The Massachusetts State Police telling ABC News their internal affairs investigation is ongoing. Reed's team and prosecutors are due back in court on July 22nd. Much more to come. Diane?
Ariel Reshef, thank you. And I want to bring in ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer for more on this case. Brian, the defense claims a juror contacted them saying that the jury had agreed unanimously that Reed was not guilty of 2 of 3 of these charges, the second-degree murder charge and the leaving the scene of an accident with injury or death. If that's true, why weren't these verdicts read in court?
So it's a little bit about the form of which a hung jury kind of operates. The verdict form wasn't filled out. We got a mistrial or a hung jury because of a note that was given to the judge. The judge read it out, and I'm not going to be as pointed as the defense attorney and say that she made a mistake, but maybe hindsight being 20/20, she might want to do it differently going forward. But read that note that the jury was deliberating and couldn't get to the point of a verdict, and this was the 3rd note of its kind. And from that note, the judge just said, all right, I'm declaring a mistrial. But the charges weren't really properly articulated as to which one the jurors were hung up on, and that's what the argument the defense is making, that there should have been a greater exploration as to what the hang-up was, which charges, if any, they might have been able to come to a consensus with, and where there was a hung jury.
Because you can have verdicts on some of the charges and then have a hung jury on others.
Absolutely. You can be acquitted of one charge, guilty of another, and hung on a third. Or you can say that you're having difficulty with all charges, and the defense's argument is, well, you need to explore a little deeper as to what those difficulties mean. Because what they're finding out now is one juror reached out to them, 2 separate individuals reached out who talked to 2 separate jurors, so 3 jurors in total said, hey, murder was off the table. And even the 3rd one might have been off as well.
Now, the defense, because of this, is asking that these 2 of these 3 charges be dismissed or that they get a voir dire of the jury. So how does that work? What are they hoping to accomplish, and what do you do now?
Yeah, so the first thing is the prosecution is going to make the response. The judge will decide based on their responses. What it looks like from the Massachusetts case law is that it's the prosecution's burden to prove that there was a manifest reason for a mistrial. But it's going to be a very big hurdle to get through that initial step of saying we need to voir dire of the jury, because to speak to a jury after their verdict is almost sacrosanct. We don't really pierce that veil, so to speak, unless there's a really big issue, but this could be a very big issue. And so if they do get past that threshold and have that voir dire of simply just the judge or the defense attorney in the presence of everyone speaking to the jury one at a time, and it does come out that there were 12-1 to acquit on 2 of the charges, the defense could win and ultimately have 2 of the charges dismissed and only be retried on that manslaughter.
All right, ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, thank you.
My pleasure.